Matthew chapter 15, verse 21 and following. And Jesus went away from there and withdrew to the district of Tyre and Sidon. Now Jesus had been in, this is getting close to the end of his ministry. He'd been in a lot of controversy. He'd been in a lot of confrontation with those religious people who opposed him. It was getting very serious. He does not leave Israel because of fear, but you know, there's sometimes you need a downtime. There's sometimes you need to back off. And what Jesus is doing here is taking his disciples, and he only did this 2 times. He left Israel and went into the Gentile countries to the north. The first time was at Caesarea Philippi, where Peter confessed that he was the Christ, the living God. And this second time, he has gone into what we would today call Lebanon. And he has his disciples and he's teaching them, and they're all alone. And that's the way Jesus wanted it. But it didn't stay that way. Jesus went away from there, Israel, and withdrew to the district of Tyre and Sidon. That's up on the coast. And behold, a Canaanite woman from that region came out and was crying, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely oppressed by a demon." But he did not answer her a word. He said, and I think he's saying this to his disciples, but she heard him. He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." And he answered, "It is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, but even dogs eat. They eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table." Then Jesus answered her, "O woman, great is your faith. Be it done to you as you desire." And her daughter was healed immediately. Wow. Sometimes there's some things we've got to get over to be a Christian. There's just some things we've got to put behind us to be a Christian. Old ways of thinking. I read in my Bible that when I accepted Christ Jesus as a Savior, I made a public profession of that faith, and then I requested baptism. And in baptism, taken from the book of Romans, I learned that my old way was buried, and that I was going to rise up and walk in a new way. My old way was buried. What does that mean? There's still a lot of the old little David Trimbur still here. He meant the penalty, the punishment, the chastisement, the condemnation of the old me is buried with Christ. He paid the penalty He took it upon himself on the cross. It's not that all of my old ways died. No, it's been taking me all of these years, way over 70. You're still with me. Why, some of you know some of my faults, some of my foibles, some of my failures. But the penalty is buried. The old man is buried. Buried long ago. But sometimes you've got to get over some things you were. You've got to get over some things you thought about and think about. You've got to clear the way to grow and become the person Christ wants you and me to become. It's not easy. This woman, she's called a Canaanite, which is an Old Testament word. It's not a New Testament word. There were no Canaanites when Jesus was there. The Canaanites were the people that lived in that land of promise, in that land of Israel, in Palestine, before the Jews even came back in there to take that land. They were there, and they were to expulse those Canaanites, and in some cases they did, in some they didn't, but finally they did. But she's called a Canaanite because that means she was a pagan, she was an unbeliever, she was a person who was an idolater, she followed the gods of the Canaanites. It was out of Israel, it was a totally different geographical area, it was a totally different theological thinking, it was totally different. So she's called Canaanite. You look at Mark's parallel to this, she's called a Greek and a Syro-Phoenician. Won't go into all of that, but just telling you she is a foreigner. She is not a Jew. She is not an Israelite. She is not of the children of Abraham. She is of a different race, a different people. She's an outsider. And Jesus didn't go there specifically to meet her, you say? But there's no accidents for Jesus. There's no accidents for a believer. Everything that happens is for a reason. The Lord knew in heaven that Jesus, his son on earth, was going to go there, and he knew he was going to meet this woman. He knew you were going to come here today. He knew that you were going to meet Jesus when you did, whether you were 5, 10, 12, 18, or 19, as in my case. There's no accidents. Lives do not intersect without God. He knows it's in the plan, and Jesus is going there, and this woman, even though he's trying to be hid, he wants to be alone, isolated. But it didn't work. You can't hide Jesus. And this woman heard about him, and she had a sick child, a demonized child, an uncontrollable child. Anybody got uncontrollable children? Ever heard of that? And she's crying. And she came to Jesus, not by accident, but by plan. She came to Jesus because that was the way it was going to be, just like I did and you did. And she brought all of her past with her, her ways of thinking, her ways of worshiping. And she brought her little child that was afflicted to Jesus. Cries out. The first hurdle that she had to jump over was her past. Two men were talking. One of them said to the other, "Oh, you look so depressed today. You're down. Why are you so down? Why so depressed?" The man replied, "Because of my future." Your future? Why would you be depressed about your future? Because of my past. Sometimes we allow our past to depress us. Sometimes it holds us back. And this woman, she had a past. It was not Christian. It was not Jewish. It was not a believer. It was a past that was pagan and heathen and idolatrous. It was a past. But she had to jump that hurdle and put that behind her to seek Jesus. And she did. She sought him out. I had to put some things behind me. I said it in the bulletin. You don't have to agree with it. But sometimes I'm glad I didn't grow up a Baptist or in this culture. But thank God that I was able to put my past, which was just as pagan, just as heathen, just as wrong, just as sinful, just as idolatrous, just as evil as this woman's. I could put it behind me and begin to seek Jesus. To hear him preach, to hear him sung about, to keep coming back, to fellowship with believers, to have that influence come on me. Thank God I was able to put it behind me and come to him. She is a Gentile, a non-Jew, but she calls Jesus what? Messiah. She calls him with a messianic title, Son of David, meaning you are a king. You are the Lord. You are the one in charge. I must submit to you as a king. And the only way we can come to Christ is to make him our Lord as well as our Savior, and submit ourselves to him. So she put her behind her past. That's the first hurdle. Second hurdle had to be hard, just as it's hard for you, because Jesus' answer to her was zilch, nothing, zero. He was silent. It's almost a deafening silent. Did you ever have a problem, a trouble, a sickness, a difficulty, a sin, and you call out to him and he doesn't answer? It's a silence. But delay does not mean denial. Sometimes the Lord lets you stew a while. Sometimes he just backs off and lets you be in the misery for a while. Her heart was broken because Jesus didn't say anything. Sometimes we demand that he'd work in our lives right here and now, our way now. We demand that be now. Speak to me now, Lord. Heal me now, Lord. Do it now, Lord. And we become insistent and we demand. And she's demanding Jesus for it. But Jesus doesn't say what. She had to overcome her past, and she had to overcome the hurdle of the silence. And look what happens. She has to overcome another hurdle. The other disciples. Get rid of this woman. She is trouble. She is a nuisance. She's in the way. She's bothering us. She won't let up. Get rid of her, they say to Jesus. Maybe they mean, Jesus, go ahead and heal the child and get rid of her, or just get rid of her, period. We don't like to be bothered by other people. She's not our kind of people. She's different. Now, I'll say this, you can get angry. Hey, fire me. I don't care. Shouldn't be ready. And she is. We sometimes don't like to be bothered with people that are not our kind of people. Let me say it again. We don't want to be bothered with people who come into our midst seeking Jesus who are not our kind of people. You know what I'm saying? I went out there to Simpson from Fort Polk at age 18, 19, they knew nothing about this little soldier boy. Was I there to try to chase their girls, which I did not? He's from Woo, Pennsylvania. He's different. He talks different. He looks different. He dresses different. He's weird. Yes, I am all of those things, except weird. But those people in that little tiny country church accepted me. Oh, to be accepted. To come into a people where your background, your raising, your ideas, your thinking is so different than that, and have them embrace you. It's so beautiful when I see this. Not picking on you. But when these women walk over to this little baby, I saw hugs, I saw kisses. That is so beautiful. That's what we're all about. For anyone to be in our midst and be accepted and to know that, hey, okay, we're different. Whoa. By the way, there's no two of you in this place, even though you be husband, wife, or son, or daughter. There's no a parent. There's no two of you that are exactly like the other. We have to accept people as they are and realize that everyone is seeking, everyone is here for a reason. They are here to know Jesus better. And we accept them as they are. She had to jump over that hurdle of the disciples rejecting her because she was different. Because she was a woman. Because she had a demonic child. Get rid of her, they said. Be rid of her. She's bothering us. Suppose Jesus had said, you know what? It's going to be a bother to go on the cross. Suppose he would have said, crucifixion is just too much. I can't handle that. I can't cope with that. No, he said, I'll go through the pain. I'll go through the agony. I'll go through the shame. I'll go through the humiliation. I'll go through the beating. I'll go through all of that, the cursing, the spitting. I will go there and die for their sins. But suppose he'd have said, too much trouble. Don't bother me. None of us would be saved here this day. But Jesus didn't say that. I'll close with what he said in John chapter 6. And all that the Father gives me, all people, all nations, all races, all backgrounds, all geographical areas, all different ways of people thinking, all people that the Father draws to me. Whoever comes to me, said Jesus, I will never, never, never cast out. John 6:37, all that the Father gives me. You are a gift of God to Jesus. I am God's gift to Jesus. All that the Father has given me and comes to me, I will never, ever cast out. And this dear woman, she believed it, and Jesus said, mega faith, great faith. Wow! I'm amazed at you. Like an outsider. A different kind of woman. A Canaanite, if you please. A Greek, if you please. A Syro-Phoenician, if you please. I'm amazed at Jesus. That great faith. Your daughter, she's healed. And to her dying day, you can be sure, she prayed Praise Jesus. She stood in the presence of Jesus.